Elizabeth Wettlaufer, a Canadian nurse turned serial killer, shocked the world with her heinous crimes. Between 2007 and 2016, she murdered 8 elderly patients and attempted to kill or harm 6 others in long-term care homes across southwestern Ontario, making her one of Canada's most notorious serial killers. Using insulin overdoses, she targeted vulnerable seniors, exploiting her position of trust. In this documentary, we dive deep into the chilling psychology and psychoanalysis of Wettlaufer's mind, unraveling the motives, mental state, and twisted impulses behind her atrocities through the lens of science. Why focus on Elizabeth Wettlaufer? Because her crimes aren't just horrifying, they're a psychological enigma. Her methodical use of insulin to kill, disguised as routine medical care, reveals a predator who thrived in plain sight, exploiting trust in a way that's uniquely chilling. From 2007 to 2016, she injected her victims, elderly patients aged 75 to 96, with lethal doses of insulin at facilities like Care in Woodstock, Ontario. Picture it, an unassuming nurse, syringe in hand, whispering, "This is just a vitamin shot," as she delivers death. She killed James Silcox, an 84-year-old World War II veteran, with cold precision, then went home to play computer games. She murdered 7 more, including Maurice Granat, Helen Matheson, and Mary Zurowinski, often laughing afterward, describing a cackling from the pit of hell. Her crimes weren't impulsive. They were calculated, cloaked in the sterile routine of caregiving. This blend of trust violation and psychological complexity makes her a haunting case study for what drives someone to kill in the shadows of care. Let's step into the world of Elizabeth Wettlaufer, born Elizabeth Tracy May Parker on June 10, 1967, in the quiet town of Woodstock, Ontario. To understand her, we need to go back to the beginning, where the seeds of her darkness were sown. Raised in a strict Baptist household, Wettlaufer grew up under the iron grip of her controlling parents, Doug and Hazel Parker. Her father, Doug, was a devout man with rigid beliefs, reportedly homophobic, clashing with Wettlaufer's childhood friend Glenn Hart, who was gay. This oppressive environment, steeped in religious dogma, likely planted early feelings of shame and repression in young Elizabeth. Psychoanalytically, this kind of upbringing can foster a fractured sense of self, where internal conflicts between desire and imposed morality create a psychological pressure cooker. Wettlaufer was a shy, awkward child, a target for bullies at school. She tried to reinvent herself by adding an E to her name, becoming Beta, but it didn't stop the torment. Psychologists might point to this as a critical period where her self-esteem eroded, potentially fueling a need for control later in life. Social isolation and bullying can contribute to what's called a narcissistic injury, a deep wound to one's sense of worth that can manifest in destructive ways. In high school, things improved slightly. She played field hockey and joined school bands, but beneath the surface, she was devious and vindictive, according to reports. This duality, outwardly compliant, inwardly vengeful, hints at a personality already splintering, a hallmark of what psychologists might later identify as borderline or antisocial traits. Her choice to pursue nursing at Conestoga College wasn't random. Psychoanalytically, caregiving professions can attract individuals seeking power over vulnerable people, a dynamic Freud might describe as a sublimation of aggressive impulses into socially acceptable roles. But for Wettlaufer, nursing wasn't just a job. It was a stage for her darkest urges. Her career began with red flags. In 1996, she was caught stealing opioids, leading to a 6-month suspension of her nursing license. This early incident points to a pattern of impulsivity and substance abuse, which would spiral into her later crimes. Her struggles with bipolar disorder and a near-fatal overdose on stolen medication further suggest a mind-battling chaos, where control became an obsession. By 1997, Wettlaufer married Donnie, a truck driver, but the marriage crumbled by 2008. Her ex-husband later called her sick, citing her mental health struggles and a relationship she formed online with another woman. This divorce was a turning point, plunging her into a spiral of anger and instability. According to psychoanalytic theory, such a loss can trigger what's known as object loss, a profound sense of abandonment that reignites childhood wounds. For Wettlaufer, this rejection may have fueled her rage, which she later directed at her patients. Her subsequent relationship with Sheila Andrews, a prison cafeteria worker, also ended, leaving her bitter and isolated. Wettlaufer's mental health diagnoses, major depressive disorder, borderline personality disorder, and antisocial behavior, paint a picture of a woman teetering on the edge. Borderline personality disorder is characterized by intense emotional swings, fear of abandonment, and a fragile sense of self. Combine this with antisocial traits, lack of empathy and disregard for others' rights, and you have a lethal cocktail. She described feeling surges she couldn't control, a sensation she attributed to God or the devil. From a psychological perspective, these surges could be dissociative episodes where her conscious self disconnected, allowing her darker impulses to take over. This dissociation might explain why she felt horrible after each murder, yet couldn't stop. Her poetry, posted online under the pseudonym Betty Weston, offers a window into her psyche. Dark and brooding, her verses hint at inner turmoil and a fascination with death. Psychoanalysts might interpret this as a subconscious attempt to process her guilt or externalize her aggression. Yet her ability to function as a nurse, administering insulin with precision while hiding her crimes, suggests a chilling level of compartmentalization. She wasn't delusional. She admitted knowing right from wrong, which rules out psychosis. Instead, her actions point to a calculated need for power, a twisted expression of what criminologist Elizabeth Yardley called a God complex, a belief that she held life and death in her hands. Imagine the quiet of a nursing home at night, the soft hum of medical equipment, the frail bodies of elderly patients asleep in their beds. This was Wettlaufer's hunting ground. Starting in 2007 at Care St. Care, she began injecting patients with insulin, a drug she knew could kill silently if misused. Her first victim, James Silcox, an 84-year-old World War II veteran, died on August 11, 2007, after she administered a lethal dose. She told police she felt a red surge before killing, a visceral urge she couldn't resist. This sensation, described as coming from her stomach, followed by a cackling in her chest, suggests a psychological release, an almost euphoric catharsis tied to her act of killing. From a psychoanalytic perspective, this surge could be the eruption of repressed aggression, a concept Freud called the death drive, an unconscious urge toward destruction. For Wettlaufer, killing wasn't about pleasure but control, a way to assert dominance over her victims' lives. Her choice of insulin was deliberate. It was readily available, hard to trace, and mimicked natural death in elderly patients. She targeted the vulnerable, those with dementia or physical frailties, because they were easy prey, as CBC reported. This aligns with the profile of an angel of death killer, a subtype of serial killer who exploits their role as a caregiver to wield ultimate power. Her victims, James Silcox, Maurice Granat, Gladys Millard, Helen Matheson, Mary Zurowinski, Helen Young, Maureen Pickering, and Arpa Horvath, range from 75 to 96 years old. She'd tell them lies, "This is for pain," or "The doctor wants you to have a vitamin shot." Then she watched them slip away, sometimes over days, as insulin sent their blood sugar plummeting. Witnesses later describe her as calm, even cheerful, during her shifts. One colleague told CBC, "She seemed so normal, always smiling." This mask of normalcy is a classic trait of psychopathy, where superficial charm hides a lack of empathy. Wettlaufer's confessions reveal a chilling ritual. After killing Helen Matheson, she gave her blueberry pie, then injected her with insulin, later describing the laughter that followed. This behavior suggests a sadistic streak, though she denied deriving pleasure. Psychologically, this could be projection, displacing her own pain and anger onto her victims, who became symbols of her inner chaos. Her choice of elderly victims may also reflect a subconscious resentment toward authority figures, possibly linked to her controlling parents. By killing those who depended on her, she reversed the power dynamic of her childhood, becoming the one in control. Let's piece together Wettlaufer's psychological profile. Her diagnoses, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and antisocial behavior, offer clues to her actions. Bipolar disorder can cause extreme mood swings, but it doesn't typically lead to murder. Her borderline personality disorder, however, is more telling. BPD often involves intense fear of abandonment, impulsivity, and unstable relationships, all of which Wettlaufer exhibited. Her divorce and breakup with Sheila Andrews likely triggered feelings of rejection, amplifying her need to dominate others. Antisocial traits, meanwhile, explain her lack of remorse. While she claimed to feel horrible after each killing, her actions, going on a Caribbean cruise after one murder, playing computer games after another, suggest otherwise. This disconnect is a hallmark of callous unemotional traits, often seen in psychopathy. She also displayed narcissistic tendencies, believing she could decide who lived or died, as evidenced by her claim that God or the devil wanted her to kill. This God complex, as Yardley noted, is common in healthcare serial killers, who see themselves as arbiters of fate. Her substance abuse, alcohol, and opioids likely exacerbated her impulsivity and lowered her inhibitions. Addiction can amplify underlying personality disorders, creating a feedback loop where destructive urges spiral out of control. Psychoanalytically, her killings might be seen as a repetition compulsion, a need to reenact trauma or unresolved conflicts. Her strict upbringing, bullying, and failed relationships created a well of rage she couldn't express directly, so she turned on her patients, the ultimate symbols of vulnerability. For 9 years, Wettlaufer operated undetected, a shadow moving through Ontario's nursing homes. Her victims' families believed their loved ones died of natural causes, a testament to her cunning. Insulin overdoses were nearly impossible to trace, as they mimicked diabetic complications or natural decline. As Commissioner Eileen Gillies later noted, without her confessions, these offenses would never have been brought to justice. She confessed to multiple people, a pastor, a former boyfriend, a lawyer, but no one reported her. One pastor told her, "If you do this again, we'll turn you in," according to Canadian press. This inaction is chilling, a failure of those around her to take her seriously. Her colleague at Care, quoted by CBC, said she'd laugh and joke even after a patient died. This behavior baffled investigators, who later uncovered nursing logs showing Wettlaufer was present at each victim's death. Her final victim, Arpit Horvath, died in 2014 at Meadow Park in London, Ontario. By then, she'd been fired from Care for medication errors and incompetence, but no one suspected murder. She moved to part-time work, targeting Sandra Towler and Beverly Bertram, both of whom survived her attempts. Her ability to evade detection highlights systemic failures in Ontario's long-term care system, as noted in the 2019 public inquiry. The system let them down, one victim's family member told CBC, their anger palpable. In September 2016, Wettlaufer's facade cracked. Assigned to administer insulin to diabetic children, she panicked, fearing she'd harm them. She checked herself into the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto, where she spilled her secrets to staff. "I've been killing people with insulin overdoses," she admitted, according to her 4-page handwritten confession. CAMH alerted the College of Nurses of Ontario and Toronto Police, who initially struggled to believe her. On October 5, 2016, police searched her apartment, finding evidence like her computer and nursing logs. During a 2-hour interrogation, captured on video, she detailed each killing with eerie calm. "It seems so stupid now," she told the detective, casually chatting about Toronto Blue Jays tickets before confessing to 8 murders. She was arrested on October 24th, charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of attempted murder, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. On June 1st, 2017, she pleaded guilty, and on June 26th, she received 8 concurrent life sentences with no parole for 25 years. What does Wettlaufer's story tell us about the human condition? From a philosophical standpoint, her crimes force us to confront the banality of evil, a term Hannah Arendt coined to describe how ordinary people can commit atrocities without apparent motive. Wettlaufer wasn't a cartoonish villain. She was a nurse, a neighbor, a friend. Yet, beneath her mundane exterior lay a void, an absence of empathy that let her kill without hesitation. Existentially, her actions reflect a refusal to confront her own suffering, instead projecting it onto others. Her red surge and cackling suggest a battle between her conscious self and a darker, unconscious force. Philosophers like Nietzsche might see this as the triumph of the will to power, where her need to dominate overrode morality. Yet, her confessions and guilt hint at a flicker of humanity, a tortured soul aware of its own monstrosity. Her life sentence, served in a Quebec psychiatric hospital, isn't just punishment. It's society's attempt to contain a darkness we can't fully understand. Wettlaufer's story is a mirror, reflecting our fear of trusting those meant to protect us. It asks, how do we reconcile the caregiver with the killer? Her end, locked away, offers no closure, only a haunting reminder that evil often wears a familiar face. As Commissioner Galees warned, the fact that Wettlaufer is behind bars does not mean we are safe from healthcare serial killers. The shadow lingers, waiting for the next surge.